Oh, here, not allowed to do that.
Welcome back, folks, to our Fill Your Cuppa Support Together podcast. We are on Season 3, episode 20. I am your host, Mrs. O. And on my right, I have Una Mary Leonard.
Hello, hello.
And on my left, I've got a very special guest, and Zara Gillespie.
Hello.
Zara's one of our S2 mums.
You're very welcome, Zara.
She's a pro at this at now because she's done... This is her third podcast. And the two before this year were on live. So, Zara, you can't be nervous.
They were kind of like wee group settings.
I know, but this is even better.
Oh, but this is all focused on you now.
All on Zara. So Zara is an S2 mum. She's got two beautiful girls. And she's here today to tell us a wee bit about her story.
Yes.
So Zara, tell me a wee bit about you.
So I'm mummy, nurse, 31. Still thinking I'm 19.
We all do.
Support Together journey started for me. It didn't start for a long time. My mummy journey started in September 2020. So COVID baby. But I got put off work in April of 2020. Theatre nurse. There was nowhere safe to put me. So we got shafted to home.
Yeah.
At 20 weeks pregnant. So you couldn't walk the dog twice without a neighbour could report to you. It was all that time you couldn't do anything. So from 20 weeks pregnant, I sat at home and cleaned and cooked. And Alia came in September and I did not feel well, but I was a nurse. I'm fine. Get on with us.
So what do you mean well, not feel well, physically or mentally?
Black and dark.
Okay.
And
So
I had to control everything. I had the apps downloaded. I had notepads. I had to measure her nappies. I had to measure her food, her milk. I had to feed her myself. She was tongue-tied. I got a lactation consultant out. I beat myself up when I couldn't feed her. And nobody else could look after her because they wouldn't feed her right or they wouldn't measure her nappies right. And it was a real control. It was the fear that if I didn't control that, something would happen.
When Una's back.
I'm so sorry about that. When I got a tickle there, I apologise. I couldn't stop. I think I nearly coughed half a kidney out there.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay. I'm back.
Back
I'm alive.
Hey, Zara. What about a nurse anyway? So it's okay if you had a cough.
That's what I thought. Something happened to me, Zara. And that's 85 because I'm smoking. The pressure of my job.
Now back to Zara.
So
Zara, you had said there that you had got a lactation nurse in.
Yeah.
And only you could feed Alia.
Yeah.
So we'll go back to that there and you can tell us about it.
It was just that control. It was the fear if anybody else had her, they couldn't feed her right. They couldn't make a bottle right. They could. Obviously they could.
Yeah.
My mother's reared me.
Yeah.
But I had to control everything. I think the first time I left her, she was 10 weeks old and we had went away to go diffin legally.
Diffin?
Cars.
Okay.
Legally. It was actually, but I had to get home. I was like, no, she was on the bottle at that time. We had to go to Belfast and because I couldn't physically feed her, NHS doesn't support you for tongue ties if you're not actively breastfeeding. So we took her to Belfast. I was trying to get her to latch, but no, that was just horrific. She was crying, I was crying. Paid the money, got the tongue tie, and the child sucked the bottle. Like there was not a problem at all then. But that was my norm, and that was my life. That was for the next 2 years, 9 months until the second bundle of joy came. I had control of everything. My house was clean. I've cats and dogs, so it's clean to an extent. But I was kind of a control freak, but I'm not. It was my anxiety. I didn't know that. That was parked at the back. But at the start of that, Support Together had popped up on Facebook page. This is back with Alia. There was a mummy that is in the group. She had added me on Facebook, one of those like random ads, and I was like, oh, I know her through such and such, and sharing away at Support Together stuff. And you had a wee button where you could click to get the application form. So I had the application form in my messenger, but I never sent it. So June 2023 came and along came Eden. I was going to do everything right as well. I was going to feed her, but if it didn't work, I wasn't going to force myself type of thing. So it came to day 10 and she was planned C-section. She was frank breech. So in my head, I'd already failed myself, but I tried to turn that round. The nurse said to me, I can't turn that child physically. The doctor couldn't turn her.
Yeah.
It's not my fault. Tongue-tied again as well. So feeding just went out the window.
Yeah.
I wasn't putting myself through that again. But day 10 hit like a brick. Connor went back to England, so he's lorry driver.
Mm-hmm.
That was me on my own with 2 babies, and I went back into my Facebook Messenger from 2020, found the form, filled the form in, sent it, and then thought, the form's not going to exist anymore. It's 3 years. So it was 10 to 5 and I rang the office and I got Una.
Mm-hmm. Remember that day, Una?
It was just, I wobbled on the phone, completely bleh. You got everything that day.
I would call that probably verbal diarrhea.
Yeah.
And that's, of course, because you were feeling you have a voice at the other end of the phone.
I wasn't well.
Mhm.
Like, and I just splurted all out to you. So, yeah, that was the start of my journey. I came into you, a broken woman. I'd been with the midwife just before because my C-section had opened. Because obviously I was hoovering the house at like 7 days post-section.
Of course you are.
But I had to control that. If people were coming to my house, I had to have a clean house.
Yeah.
And do you suppose through the wee conversation you've been starting there about you being a nurse and a theatre nurse?
I literally wrote down nurse.
Yeah. And it's, because it would be wild interesting for other people out there who maybe, you know, who are in that industry.
Yeah.
And you're trained to ensure safety.
Yeah.
Safety is paramount. It's first and foremost. And at the theatre also is so clean.
Yeah.
You have a routine. There's no doubt. When one goes in, there's somebody before somebody else comes in. There's a whole procedure that you're bing, bang, bong, and everything has to be
structured.
A certain way.
You have to know what's coming next before it comes next.
Yeah. Exactly. And then comes the baby, and then you in the middle of COVID, which will already poke a massive bear of this infection, and you being a nurse and you're scientifically in tune, you know that there's a risk to you. So do you feel, I suppose what I'm trying to ask here is, do you feel your industry, your job maybe?
Oh, it had a real impact. I had Ali at 2:00 in the morning and I was out of SWA at 2:00 in the evening, and that was my first baby. And that was, you're a nurse, it's all right. She went blue, she choked on me, and I had pushed the buzzers and all, and I was trying to get out of the bed, and the healthcare assistant came in and she's like, she's all right, it's just a wee bit of not reflux, it was
mucus.
Oh, it's the mucus. Yeah, it happens a lot,
I'm sure you know what you're doing. You work in theatres.
Assuming.
I was like, this doesn't come with a book. Like, this is a wee tiny £6.11 wee doot. I didn't know.
So freeze back to that.
Yeah.
So, because this has happened, a lot of people we speak to, and people from all professions, and especially from your likes of your industry. So somebody turned around and said to you, I know that wasn't her intention. Her intention was probably trying to raise you up.
Yeah.
It wasn't her intention to go, you should know what you're doing. But how you weren't allowed to be you. You weren't allowed to be the first time mummy.
I'm not allowed to be vulnerable because I should know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. But where were you taught that? Like, where were you taught to be a mummy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're not.
Exactly. Yeah. So how were you meant to know? And you're more vulnerable because you actually know what could go wrong.
Yeah. And I don't work with children. The patients are asleep.
Aye, but even if you worked with children or not,
I know.
Seriously, because they're knocked out on the table, which is so easy to work with. But but even if you were a nurse, a school nurse or a child nurse, no, this is exactly, Zara. That's what we're saying. This is your baby.
Yeah.
You're going through it emotionally and physically. And you were in 12 hours. Is that 12 hours?
I went in at 5 in the evening. She was born at 2 in the morning, and I was back at home at 2 lunchtime.
In your own house?
Yeah.
And straight away, you go then, and how you can gain control, because it's like spins going, the world is changing.
I had read all the books. I had watched all the videos, not really read the books, flicked through them. But I had, this was going to be grand. Sure, I'm a nurse.
You're ready for this procedure?
Yeah. No.
No. So if we bring you back around again then until the phone, you had the phone call with her now at 10 to 5 one evening. Take me from there. Now, I remember it. But I want to know, what do you remember, and what's your journey from there for Support Together?
So that first day I went in to use, I hate pink, not anymore. I hated pink and the big sunflowers, and I thought, this is wild, this is in my face, but I needed it to be in my face, because especially nursing and mental health is so hush-hush. It's like when you take a handover and work, they have a wee bit of depression. It's not a wee bit. You don't have to whistle. Like, you don't want to be shouting it out for other people to hear, but there's such a taboo that you can't have mental health issues, or you shouldn't vocalize your mental health issues as a nurse. And that's why, not why, but some of us are crumbling because you're scared that, if they know that I've suffered a bit of anxiety or depression, how can you be a nurse? But
you're human.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Does it make you less of a person in your job?
No.
So then back to once I started, I was just so vulnerable. I was an open book then when I came into you. I think she was just about 2 weeks old then. And I needed you to fix me. Like you had the cure. You were going to sort me out. I was going to see flowers again instead of darkness.
This is Fill Your Cuppa, the Support Together podcast. And we couldn't bring the podcast to you today without the support of Supreme Motors. Whether you're looking for something affordable or a top tier option, Supreme have the perfect car for you, along with a commitment to exceptional care at all times. Visit suprememotors.co.uk.
My head and my head needed, but it's been a 2-year journey.
Yeah.
First year was a lot of just tiptoeing and finding my feet with 2 children. That second year was finding myself.
Yeah.
And that's where if to walk through your journey and to figure out stuff, you have to find you.
Yeah.
And I did counselling through yourselves. I did 8 weeks of it at the start. I was like, nope, not for me. This isn't fixing me now. I need this fixed.
So quick enough.
But by the end of it, it was. Now, the end, it's changed my life for a lot of ways. I've cut off family. I've stepped away from friends. I say no to people now.
You've learned your boundaries.
Yeah. And that's not that they were ever bad. It's just you see things differently. You see what's bringing to your plate, what you're maybe not giving to other plates. And life is so short, can be short. You just have to protect yourself to protect your babies.
Yeah, because when you're sitting in an illness, and you become so suffocated and that dark, that's heavy.
It is.
When you first, when the doorbell went that day, we had a scheduled appointment. So we ring-fenced that time for you to come in. So you're standing at the door, and as you say, it was pink and sunflowers, and I go, Jesus Christ, this is in my face. Everything we do is there for a reason.
Yeah.
And so you don't forget the pink is brightness, it shows hope. The course is the sunflower. So we brought you in and welcomed you in and offered you a cuppa. That's the first thing I was always offered. How did you feel leaving Support
Safe.
Together?
I felt understood. I'll never forget you were telling me about you struggled too with the breastfeeding, and it was like strawberry milkshake, and that stuck with me from then.
Oh, Jesus,
and that was
shit. I don't.
That was me too. Like I found myself, a lot as what you said. I felt like I was the same. Now everybody's story is different. You can cross wee bits. You can.
Yeah. There's entanglement often, isn't there?
Did you get reassurance from that?
I felt normal. I did. I felt normal. And it is normal to have up and downs in lives, but I have been not brought up. I was trying to think how to say this without ever insulting people. My mum did a brilliant job. I love her. We have a really great relationship.
Yeah.
But depression's been in my family. Granny was depressed, but she's just a wee bit sad. Yeah. And then it went, Mummy's been depressed for 20 years. Yeah. We had a horrific split in our family, but it was never spoke about.
Okay.
So once it hit me, I was like, no, that's...
Well, I remember you, and it was it was our first ever live, and we took the wee break, and it was in the hub in the office, and we had the break, and it was going really well, and you had give a quote, it ran in my family until it ran into me, and that quote was like, oh my gosh, it did run in my family, it run into me, because I had the power to stop it.
I have 2 wee girls that need to know that it's okay if you have depression or anxiety, it's okay. I was never told you're not allowed or you can't, but it was always just brushed under.
And there was whispers around it. You're talking about the whispers around it even when you're doing a handover from nurse to nurse.
But if somebody broke their leg, you're not going to be, oh my goodness, they broke their leg. Like you don't whisper about it. No. It's not a weakness. No. It's actually a strength. To look into. You don't have to reach out and get help if you're not ready, but even to acknowledge it is a strength starting.
Well, you lifting that phone up at 10 to 5, you coming then, you were, but what happens was, Zara went through so much, Zara didn't approach us in baby one. She was wanting to, but didn't. Like, how can we get to mummies at baby one? How can we get to mummies when they're pregnant? How do you get to mummies when they're preparing to maybe decide to have a baby? You know, but you went through, you allowed yourself to feel that much hurt, that it got that bad that you had to go, right, I need to do something about this.
Yeah.
And that is, of course, it's a strength, because you could allow yourself to go under, and I mean under.
Yeah.
You know that you're not worthy, and go into a darker place. And if you were reared in an environment where mental ill health was kind of, you know, and often you used to hear people go, "Oh, she's put to bed. She's put to bed. She's way to bed." You know, over the years, you know, granny's way to bed, and nobody talked, and nobody. So you weren't educated.
Yeah.
So you weren't given the words to educate you, which then empowered you to be able to go and speak to whoever you need to speak to about your feelings. But you decided enough's enough.
Yeah.
Enough is enough. And the first time I met you, I remember saying to Connor, your partner, soon to be your husband.
Yes.
When I first met you, I think, Zara, you were one of the most sickest looking women I ever encountered in my 15 years. When I opened that door, all I wanted to do was hold you. You were so fragile.
Yeah. And this wee toot in the buggy.
Wee toot and this wee buggy. And the one thing I remember that'll stand out to me was the likes of your hygiene routine, and the likes of ensuring the worktops, everything had its place. Everything had to be, because when that was, I can then do this.
Yeah.
And the house is safe.
Yeah.
You know, and you were so honest with your conversation. And that's because I hope we held a cocoon space for you.
Yeah.
Because honesty is important, but we have to be mindful where we take that honesty.
Yeah.
Because we don't want honesty often used against us, or often we overshare and become so vulnerable.
Yeah.
But that was the start of your
incredible journey.
Yeah, it's been a journey.
Oh, Zara, it's been, and that's why you're sitting here today. You know, we haven't just pulled you out and goes, come on ahead in here. You know, you've done so much work. There'll be a lot of prep that we'll do with you before, but also after. We'll be doing a lot of check-in with you after doing this. But you've came to Support Together. You heard about us through the social media, which there's the power of how good things can happen through social media. That made you then connect, that probably nosy into us for a wee bit, going, who's them dolls? What are they at? What's the crack here? Oh God, I don't know. And then you approached us.
Yeah. And then if I what I'm thinking about through is your journey through Support Together. You did your one-to-ones and you would have been meeting and having wee conversations and stuff. And it took a while for you to gain the confidence to come into peer-to-peer.
I think I went to peer-to-peer, was it December, January time around there?
So I remember you coming in.
It was a good 6 months.
And you...
It has to be, Zara, because you need to do your one-to-one first. It's so important.
Yeah.
And even then, you were a wee shell, like a wee mouse in the corner. Because we were very aware of... You know, because as the other mummies, some of them can be quite loud, and that's maybe part of their personality. But your personality is quiet.
I'm a watcher.
Yeah,
like I sit there awkwardly, but I'm happy. I'm just watching.
And that really, I think, then whenever you got to the peer-to-peer, because you'd done the work before it, and then I suppose you were going through and doing your counselling, that's where we started to see a difference in Zara, and you were really coming out of yourself then. Yeah. Because you'd done the work behind you. Whenever you said you first came to, we had the cure, we were going to fix it. We didn't have the cure.
No.
Who has the cure?
We, as a mother, it's the woman. You have all the tools to help, but to get better, you really have to pull yourself out of the shit show.
Yeah.
That's like, I could have stayed there and I could have went to the counsellor and just went home and not thought of anything else after it, and just I'm doing this as a tick box exercise and stayed there. I did not want to stay there. I don't have time to stay there. Yes, I panic the odd time and I have a wee bit of anxiety then, but I needed,
human.
Yeah, like that's normal. I needed to get better.
But you're starting to understand the reasons, or maybe where the triggers are, and you're often sitting with that. Like, counselling is a small part of your journey, but you we entered you into counselling at the right time. That's why it worked.
Yeah.
It's about getting you shovel ready, right? And it's about you working and trying to understand the illness and for ways that I'm feeling that, you know, life is just, you're just existing. You're not thriving. You're not, you know, you're not living.
No.
Yeah.
And that was you, you know, you were living for the two girls.
That was it. Yeah.
Your life revolved around them. And then as Ciara says, you got into peer-to-peer because you were ready at that point.
Yeah.
And then there were some amazing mummies that then you all learned from each other and flourished and grew together, I suppose.
And I know in Support Together, we always put our wee calendar events of what's happening every month. And every single time I put it out, there's a wee message comes back from Zara and it's, can you book me into this if there's space? But if there's somebody else wants to go into it first, put them in front of me.
I know.
And I remember writing back many a time thinking, Zara, what makes you think that anybody else has got preference over you?
Yeah.
You are just as important. And I know that might have poked buttons with you because maybe you thought I was being sharp. What makes you think that anybody else is more important than you?
I know.
Because we see every single mummy as being equal. And it's clear. It's first come, first served. And if your name's in first, well and good. And if your name's not in first and you're on the cancellation list, that's the way cookie crumbles.
That's life, yeah.
But you always put everybody else in front of you, and I think hopefully you're starting now to realise actually I come first, and then like there's my family and my inner circle, and I think you have maybe that's through your.
I've been a wee bit harder.
Yeah.
I think maybe some people close to me and not close to me anymore think I'm a bitch. I really did have to harden up for certain situations and put myself first.
Yep. Because you matter.
Yeah, that's.
But do you think that's you hardening up? Is that not you becoming more knowledgeable? You know, knowing and you're understanding for reasons of what you're feeling.
Yeah.
But also when you start educating yourself, your lens changes completely. And there's people you had in your life before that you felt maybe, you know, you either had codependency on them, with them. You felt they needed you because remember, we're caring people. Us three here, especially yourself in the nursing industry. And we're often fixers and try to fix things because often we try to ignore what we're going through and we try to go support others. Yeah. So you're starting then to focus on Zara. And when you start focusing on Zara, the lens completely changes.
Your rose-coloured glasses change.
Yeah. And reality.
Stop feeding those other people.
Yes.
Then you're the bad guy.
But you can understand that you're growing.
Yeah.
And when people often... And they don't mean to, I don't think people intentionally, but they look at you and go, she's changing. Yeah. And you go, no, I'm growing. I'm actually, you know, in life we're meant to evolve, aren't we? We're not meant to stay still, but that frightens a lot of other people.
I suppose we would often do in Support Together is if I say yes to you, am I saying no to me?
Oh, big time. And we'll poke at you about that.
Yeah.
Why do you think that you have to?
Why do you have to do, why you jump into that?
Why are you telling me that, but if somebody else wants to speak? No. You get in first. We always keep small spaces for mummies that we know need it. Yeah. And that's grand. And they're going to be always looked after. Yeah. But no. So that's why often Ciara would emerge you. We often poke the bear and they're probably going to phone with him.
Back on the message.
But we know what it's like ourselves, don't we, Ciara? And it is.
There's always, like, if we might have 10 spaces, but we'll have 2 sitting that we know that I'd hold for a moment that won't come forward and mightn't realise actually that she'll benefit from that session or she'll benefit from that workshop. So in our heads, when we've done our team meeting, we're planning, I've kept 2 spaces and maybe one of them spaces is for Zara because she'll not come forward and ask for that space. And then you have Zara eventually, but if somebody else wants it in before me, that's fine, let them go. No.
You're showing my weakness here.
Your name was already top of the
we've all
list.
done it. Yeah. And often I'll fall back in that. Like somebody say to me, what do you want for dinner? Or what do you want? And hang on, I know wise up.
So I want steak.
I get a real wee power drive whenever it's starting to takeaway and like, what do you want? Well, actually, I want this instead of what you want.
I'm thinking, who the hell's she? Get me back down, Zara.
You know what?
Turns around now because the man's like, he'd be like, what do you want for dinner? And I say, oh, whatever you want. He's like, you may as well just tell me because I know you're gonna have the final say. So he knows the stage.
This episode was so good. Join us next week for part 2.
This was Fill Your Cuppa, the Support Together podcast with me, Mrs. O, Ciara O'Gowan, my co-hosts Una Leonard and Gemma Cassidy. The podcast today was brought to you with thanks to our sponsor Supreme Motors NI and produced by 9874 Creative.